Well, you know what? Can we just go around and introduce ourselves since we have some guests here? So, hi, I'm Deb Koval. I'm the chair of the Library Board of Trustees.
And I'm Karen Freed, and I am a trustee and also the secretary.
I'm Sunny Gupta. I'm a trustee. I'm a public library.
I'm Mike Druin, and I'm a trustee.
Good evening. I am Janet Krupp, and I am a trustee as well as the treasurer.
Yvette Kauser, I'm the library director, and I've been overseeing their project with my colleague Kathy.
Yes.
I am Kathy Walter, the head of youth services, and I'm super excited to let you hear about their project.
Yeah, so do you guys want to introduce yourselves? Just tell us your names because we have a couple things we have to do before we get to hear about your project, okay?
My name is Melody Rowe. My name is Kaylin Gagnon.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us tonight. We have a couple of things we have to take care of, and then we'll look forward to hearing from you. So, did you want to introduce yourselves too?
I'm Karen. I'm Melody's mom.
Oh, wonderful.
And I'm Shannon Gagnon, Kaylin's mom.
Great. Thank you for joining us. So we have a public hearing before we begin our official meeting. And the public hearing is held because of a donation we have. So we are holding a public hearing to authorize the acceptance and expenditure of donated funds of $5,000 from the Digital Credit Union for the purpose of programs that make a difference in your community, pursuant to RSA 202A4C3. So we hold a public meeting for any donation. I think, is it over $5,000 or over? Just gives people an opportunity to speak if they have anything they'd like to say before we accept it. Would anyone like to speak about this? Okay, hearing none. So I will ask for your official guidance, Yvette. Would you like us to vote to accept this now or during our public meeting?
You would vote to accept it now.
Okay, thank you. So do I have a motion to accept the donation from Digital Credit Union of $5,000 for the purpose of programs that make a difference in your community?
I'll move.
Karen, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Okay. Sohini? Okay, thank you. 500. So it passes. And so our public hearing is concluded. Okay, so that is just something we have to do officially. So now we're going to begin our actual meeting. So we'll call our meeting to order at 7:01, and we begin by saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So tonight we have an appointment. We have two Girl Scouts here, Melody Rowe and Kaylin Gagnon, to do a Silver Award presentation. So thank you for joining us. We're looking forward to hearing your presentation. Do you want to put it over the top? Yeah, there you
Hi everyone, my name is Melody and I'm a Girl Scout from Troop 13912.
Hi, my name is Kaylin Gagnon. I am also a Girl Scout from Troop 13912. This is our Silver Award project called Books and Baking Kits. Where the idea came from. I love to bake, and when I was home during COVID last summer, I began baking something new every week that my family and I enjoyed. Some of the recipes I wanted to make, I couldn't because I didn't have the proper pans. I then remembered that my grandmother signed me up to get baking kits a few years ago, and I loved getting those kits. They came with cute little baking pans and a recipe card. But there were some drawbacks to these kits. It can get expensive for some to get subscriptions like this. When done making the kit, the materials are not used again. This is where the idea for baking kits at the library started. Melody liked this idea too and wanted to join in on the project when I shared it with my troop members.
So our idea was to make baking kits for kids to check out from the library, and they have in them a baking pan or a baking tool, a recipe card with step-by-step instructions and pictures, and a link to a video on YouTube demonstration. No ingredients are in the bag, and there's also a baking pan care sheet in the bag. After talking to the staff at the library over here, they thought it would be a great idea to incorporate some of the pans that they already had from a previous Girl Scout project. We each picked 3 pans from the library and 3 additional items to develop kits for. These kits will allow kids an opportunity to access quality items they may not be otherwise able to afford.
Also, these kits allow children to use items that they wouldn't necessarily have a recurring use for, therefore wouldn't want to buy. These are some of the kits we made, and we're going to pass out a few of them to show you guys. Now we're going to watch a few videos that we made.
My friend Kayla and I created these baking kits.
It's not showing.
Thanks for borrowing one from the library. I hope you.
Showing?
You get escape, Caitlin?
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go.
Okay.
We have to turn the...
My friend Kayla and
There we
I
go.
created these baking kits for our silver one. Thanks for borrowing one from the library. I hope you enjoy it. Hi, today we're going to be making Harry Potter Sword and Cat cupcakes. So, first step is to get all of your ingredients and materials. We need vanilla frosting, vanilla extract, cocoa powder, Oreo cookies, baking soda and baking powder, an egg, some Hershey Kisses, food coloring, water, vegetable oil, salt, the easy corn fill cupcake core that's included in the baking kit, flour, sugar, a big bowl, 4 small bowls, a muffin tin, and you can either line it with liners or spray it with spray, and milk. First, preheat the oven to 350 degrees. Oh, it's already at 350, so I can just hit start. Now we're going to whisk together our flour, sugar, cocoa powder, baking soda, and salt in this bowl. If you don't have a whisk, you can use a spoon. Now we're going to add our vegetable oil and milk. Add your lightly beaten egg and mix that in as well. Now the vanilla extract. Plop. Now we're going to add the hot water carefully so it doesn't splash all over my face.
Now to fill our muffin tin. Now put them in the oven for 18 to 22 minutes. While they're baking, divide the frosting into 4 bowls. Add a couple drops of food coloring to each bowl to make blue, red, yellow, and green. Now we will make our sorting hats. We'll separate the Oreo and wrap the Hershey Kiss. Boop! Magic. Now we'll use our corer tool to core the cupcakes. Because they're cool. Fill 3 of the cupcake with each colored frosting. Now we're going to put our pre-made sorting hats on our cupcakes that are frosted. And now enjoy your sorting hat cupcakes.
Now we're gonna watch one more video.
I can see clearly now the rain is gone. I can see all the
Close that
obstacles
tab.
in my way.
Before you start baking, make sure to wash your hands. For the debris heater, oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. We're going to start combining our dry ingredients. We're going to add all of our wet ingredients. We're going to put our batter into a picking bag, but I'm just going to use as a Ziploc bag. Now we're going to put our donuts in the oven for 8 to 9 minutes. Now we're going to check to see if our donuts are done or not with our toothpick. They're not done yet, so we're going to put them back in for a little bit. We just flipped them and now we're going to take them out. Now we're going to make the glaze. Now we're going to dip each donut into our chocolate glaze. Now it's time to decorate. I'm using chocolate sprinkles, some marshmallows, and then at the end I'm going to use some powdered sugar as possible. Now for the end, I'm going to dust them with some powdered sugar.
Do you guys have any questions?
I have a question. What was your favorite recipe?
My favorite recipe was the hot chocolate donuts. I really liked chocolate.
And what was your favorite kit?
My favorite kit was probably the sorting hat cupcakes.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
How did you decide on the books?
So we picked the recipes out and then we kind of looked like what books would coincide with the recipes we were making.
Yeah.
I have a question. Maybe it's more for you. What if I want to borrow some of those? How do I find them at the library? Will they be on the catalog? Will I walk in? Because I already want to try both of those things. I've never made donuts or used a core, and I know they're for kids, but like maybe adults want to try it too.
They're going to be in the children's room.
They will be in the children's room,
Okay.
so anyone can come visit them and check them out. They'll be on display all the time.
I am so impressed. They're fantastic. And your videos were amazing. And as someone who watches a lot of baking shows, I'm impressed by your techniques. You guys were amazing. So
Thank you.
Can you explain a little bit about the Silver Award?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so a silver award is the highest award a Girl Scout cadet can earn. And what we have to do is we have to identify a problem in our community that we want to solve. And then we have to put 50 hours into it.
Well, thank you. This is Mayan, I am good. Thank you so much. I mean, this is amazing. And there are going to be so many families, children and adults who are going to benefit from this and be inspired by it. So really, you did an amazing job. And I'm quite sure you put in more than 50 hours. That was a lot of work. So yes, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions for them? No, and really impressive. So well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to talk.
Yes, we should. You're amazing.
Nice
Great.
job.
Yes.
for having us.
Oh my gosh, our pleasure. Thank you for doing all this for the library and the community. It's amazing. I didn't even know you could buy a corer. Like I learned something from that. I can think of all these really cool things to do now. With it's amazing.
Ellie's already like, I want to borrow the donut one.
Yeah.
Me too. I want to borrow that one.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. That's great.
Those are new. Those are new.
Yeah. Wow.
Is this all of them?
Yes, all 12.
Oh, they
Yeah.
did 12.
So Kathy and I met with Melody and Kaylin on Zoom several times during their project, depending on where they were in the process, and just to check in with us and ask questions, or we would ask questions. So, but it's all Scout driven.
Mm-hmm.
I have that pan.
Wonderful. Well, that was a wonderful way to start our meeting. So great. Thank you. Thank you so much for all your hard work.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just saw another pan on the way out that thought, oh, a hard pan. That would be great. I mean, there's just, yeah, amazing. I can just see so many families, like what a great thing. Get a book, bake something. It's a wonderful way to spend an afternoon together. Awesome. Okay. And thank you to Yvette and Kathy for helping the Girl Scouts with that. All right. So moving on to the normal business, we have our old business, July action items. So one of my action items was to see if the committees had been assigned. I was not able to find anywhere in the minutes that they were. So perhaps when we get to the committee updates, we should talk about that and see if people would like to volunteer for different committees. Another one of my action items actually was related to strategic planning. And so I'll just speak to that now. It's on our old business. I did speak with Ann Warner, and she is the person who Yvette had highly recommended. And we talked for a while about what strategic planning would look like for us. And what she recommended was that we begin by doing an organizational profile worksheet. And that perhaps Yvette and I work on that, and we bring in another trustee and staff members and just have a few people work on the first draft of this. This is really to identify mission, core strengths, things like that, to sort of give us a starting place. And then after there's a rough draft of that done, to get together as a group and have Ann Warner facilitate everybody contributing to the document. But she thought that it usually worked well if there was a place to start, that we didn't just start with, a group trying to do this. So, and then based on that, and based on sort of what our resources were, what our vision was for what strategic planning would look like, how much time, how much money we wanted to spend on it, she would help us develop a program that would work to meet our needs. To have her come in to facilitate the meeting where we went over the organizational profile worksheet would be $350. So that is sort of our money to get started, to help us get that core document done, and then to help us, just kind of decide where we're going from there. So I'm just bringing that to you because I would not want to proceed without getting your thoughts and opinions on that. And of course, we would need to vote if we were going to spend any money on this as well. I'm happy to share the organizational profile worksheet with you. I just didn't want to send it out without giving you some context for what it was. So so if do you have any questions, thoughts about the process? I think it's valuable to have somebody come in to help us facilitate this. So
I have gone through that process in education, where a facilitator would guide the group, and having something to begin with is very valuable. And having I think that it's a good idea the way it was presented.
Okay. Does she have is there a timeline, or is this
So when I spoke with her, this was a couple of weeks ago, so forgive me, but I think it's more that we would kind of design what would work for us, right? Because I'm sure she deals with organizations who have different timeframes in mind. If we said to her, we want to spend 8 weeks and we want to spend this much money, what does this look like for us? I think that's a conversation we can have with her about what our options are, but that regardless of where we go with the process, that this profile worksheet is a good way to kind of get started and, get an overview of where the organization is and what we see going forward. And I will share that all with you after this meeting. But again, I just didn't want to send it out and have people wonder, am I supposed to do this? What is this thing? So, Mike, Sohini, do you have any thoughts or questions?
We can look into that and then, we can look into that and then we can decide in the next meeting, how we are going to.
I think that the first step would be that we vote to pay the money. Right, okay. That we would vote that we would be willing to pay $350 for this first step in the process. Then it would be Yvette and I, asking if there's another volunteer from the trustees, because I think we'd want to keep it to 2, so it's just a kind of a working group, and then maybe a staff member to a department head, or however Yvette wants to do it. And we would just sit down with the document and kind of come up with a draft. Then we would schedule a time, and I don't think it would be during a regular meeting. I think it would be another time that we would ask her to come to meet with us as a group. Although we could do it as part of a regular meeting, but it seems like it would be better suited for another time that we would all meet and work on, fleshing out more detail in the document, adding your thoughts or whatever. So.
We do need a strategy. Every few years we need to see where the library stands. Everybody, every organization has some form of looking back and looking forward to see what has happened and what can be done. So, I'm for it.
Okay.
Because a lot of changes are happening within the library and outside the library and the community as large. So a lot of things, a lot of ideas may come into how the library will go going forward. So.
Great. Mike, do you have any questions or thoughts? Okay. All right.
I'll make a motion to spend $350 for the strategic planning paperwork to get started. I don't know what it's called.
Organizational profile.
Organizational profile.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay, 500. So I will, I'm just going to reach out to Anne again, let her know that I told her I wanted to make sure and obviously get a vote on this before I proceeded. So I will reach out to her, tell her we are going to move forward, and then set up something with Yvette, and we can, send out an email and see who would like to jump on and help out, or you can let us know.
I'd be willing.
Okay. If you want to think about it, but okay, great. So we'll get going like that. All right, wonderful. Another action item, I think, was Janet, you were moving some money for things?
Yes, I moved the money. Goodness, I moved a bunch of different things. I moved money from, I paid back fines from special. I moved money from, it's in the treasurer stuff, but I moved money from the fines savings account into the fines checking to bring it up to 10,000. I bought the balance fund for the Watson account. I bought the money that was just sitting in cash in both fines and fidelity fines and fidelity special in their cash accounts. I bought their value fund.
I just want to take a second while you mentioned the Watson Fund to say that a community member and former trustee had reached out with some questions and concerns. And so we went back and forth, but I think it's just good to clarify that the Watson Fund was given to us by Geraldine Watson, and it was $25,000. And then her husband donated an additional $5,000. So that money will stay together, that $30,000, and that we follow the will. So that is something that we take very seriously, that we are legally obligated to follow the parameters of the will. And that's what we do with all of our decisions and anything that is moving forward. Now, and has been always that way. The fund was in a mutual fund. Janet had done a little bit of background research on that. It was in a mutual fund until 2008. And then with concerns about the stock market, the trustees at the time took it out and put it into CDs. So now we are returning it to a balanced fund, something that's even more conservative than the fund that it was in prior to this, so that we can continue to gather more interest and from it, and also that we can think about reinvesting some of that money and growing the principals. But regardless, that $30,000 stays together and we follow the will. So just for some clarification, and I really did appreciate the community member who reached out. I think it's great to have people asking questions. It helps us to look at what we're doing, making sure everything is great. So that was great. So thanks, Janet, for your help in preparing the information so that I could answer their questions. Okay. Was there an action item about asbestos? Yvette, were you looking into the thing with the asbestos?
Yes. It might be on the maintenance list.
Yes.
We did find a vendor that the carpet vendor recommended that they've worked with before to do this kind of work. So that's been that contract has been signed, so we're going to start moving forward on that.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you. All right. So those were our action items. The only other thing of old business, the copier is a holding, just a placeholder, SMP. So I asked Yvette to keep this on the agenda just so that we didn't let that fall to the wayside. I am going to be meeting with the staff of the library on August 24th at 8:30 in the morning, because that was what we thought would be the next right step, would be to explain to them as stakeholders what the process was, what we were looking at, talk about the different sites that we had looked at and see what their concerns were, both as staff members and community members. And then I think after that, we'll probably want to make some decisions as a board and talk to our other stakeholders. But I will report back to you after I meet with them on the 24th. So, okay. Anything else for old business? Okay, new business. We have a policy to review, which is the unattended children policy.
There should be two.
Okay.
So unattended children, changes were marked. If you have any questions about it.
We made a lot of changes. It was made it clearer.
Yeah, I think it was fine.
Yeah, I thought it was fine too.
Okay.
Oh, I did have one thing. It's in 3. It says, it's the last line. If the parent cannot be reached, the library staff will contact the Merrimack Police Department, may be called to remove the child.
Oh, okay.
There was an if on the end of line 1 too, that children under the age of 11 may not be left unattended at the library. A child is unattended if in the library. Is it that right? If in the library without a parent? That sounds like that's what they're considered unattended.
I'll fix it.
Okay. Maybe it is if in the library. It just sounded weird when I was reading it over. Okay. As long as I really appreciate that you put where it was very clear and direct, and also just noted that if there is a circumstance where children are unattended, that 2 library staff will wait until the police come, or parent or police. So okay.
In the first line, when it says that welcomes youth of all ages, does that include youth means children, children and youth, because youth is.
I think with youth services, we're trying to use the same language. So it used to say children, But Kathy wanted to change it to youth to use the same language.
Okay. So are there any other changes, questions, or corrections on the policy? Okay. So I will make a motion that we accept the unattended children policy.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? 500. Thank you, Yvette.
Okay, the second one should be the, I'm trying to think, appeal of library
yes.
charges.
Yep. That you.
It's a draft.
Mhm.
So basically as we've started the pilot of Fine Free, we found that some patrons have very old fines on their card that are dating back several years. And the staff have said, well, you need to pay this fine from 2014. And they say, well, I don't remember it. And we don't have a tool right now for them to appeal it. And the staff, myself, can't make that decision. For extenuating circumstances, sometimes we'll waive late fees or, there's a little bit of room that we have, but forgetting hasn't been a reason up to now.
Mm-hmm.
Do library fines fall under the statute of limitations for debt collection in New Hampshire?
I don't know, but we don't use a collection agency yet. That's something that we've talked about. At what point is it appropriate for Merrimack to put a collection agency in place? We haven't talked about that in a couple of years, but right now this is the question. So ultimately it's up to this board. I mean, we can, if you ask questions, we can go research that and find out. But the problem that came to us was we don't have a tool for anyone to appeal it. It's just a conversation, and that doesn't help the situation.
So you really just want to institute a process that would be that people could fill out that form, or that might be one option for how to handle it.
Or if you have other ideas, we're open to ideas.
How old are they?
Well, this one was 2014. So I think what we're looking for is some guidance from the board. So every situation is different. Sometimes it's a fine on a child's card. Child gets older, now they're considered an adult. Mm-hmm. What is there a statute of limitations for library fines? And, sometimes libraries will engage a collection agency so you can really make an attempt to retrieve that money.
This is more for materials that are lost or damaged than for fines per se, or is it?
This was an old fine that I am not sure why it was never paid down. Sometimes if a fine gets to a certain limit, then we'll encourage people to pay it down little by little, but that's not how the conversation went.
How much is that fine?
Off the top of my head, I probably don't know.
Well, I think that, if someone loses a book and it's $30, that's different than you were late returning a book and you owe us $2.10. I think there's a difference between when something is a lost material, because a lost material costs more than just replacing the material. There's the processing. There's all the stuff that goes into it also. If this is something that would help the staff, that if somebody comes in and they don't want to pay something and it would help the staff member to have them here's the process. If you fill this out, the trustees will take a look at it, or the director will. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, and at least it keeps a conversation open with the patron that it's not just a no, we aren't going to do anything. Janet, I see your face. Are you wondering about this, or I couldn't tell if you had a thought?
No, I'm kind of just torn because though it's a pilot and though I don't totally support it, we've said as a board we're getting rid of fines through
until December. Yeah.
So if it went back to 1999, we said there was going to be no fines, or we're going to. So that's so.
I feel the same way.
So in that sense, good for that patron.
they're in like the amnesty period of.
It's more of a. It wasn't caught all along.
But we're not getting rid of fine. We're not getting rid of all charges. We're getting rid of fines, but not damaged or lost material. So I think if this was damaged or replacement, then that's what I was thinking of. But so say this is a damaged, if it's fines, you're saying gone. But if it's a damaged or a book that was not returned and it's on the person's card and they owe us $30 and they say, I don't remember, I never took that out, but if I did, I returned it, right? So if that's something that they're saying, do we still want to have a process in place for those sorts of interactions? And I think that would make sense. And yeah, Mike, go ahead.
I think there should be a number of years that if they don't pay it, it eventually drops off. Because, if it's a lost book and they're not willing to take responsibility, then it's basically a ban on taking things out. Mm-hmm. So that should last 5 or 10 years.
Or a year at least.
Yeah.
Well, I
the
think
library after a few months, they cannot check out some stuff. They can come to the library.
Don't you have a policy like that? For when it reached a certain amount.
There's a threshold. But yes, there's a threshold.
Yeah.
And then it's, can you pay this down?
Right.
I feel like the year thing, I can see that. I guess the appeal of library charges would also act in that way, in that a person could say, it's been 10 years. I don't remember even taking that out. Let me fill this out, and then Yvette can do it. Or are you feeling like the filling it out is an obstacle to borrowing? Is it? Because it seems to me like if you told me, if you fill this out, we'll take a look at it, then I personally be like, oh, okay, well, let me fill this out and see what happens. But Karen, did you want to say something?
Well, it seems to me that the reason that we're going fine-free is to take away the punitive aspect of if you do not get the book returned and in the time that you are supposed to, then you pay a fine. And that's the way it's always been. But as far as damaging books or replacing books or giving them to the wrong library or giving it to a friend or whatever, those things, patrons, the responsibility of using the library, that's like at the base of it is that you're going to give it back so somebody else can use it. That's why it's free, or at least free to patrons. Tax
supported. We don't say free.
Okay, tax supported. It is tax. Yeah, it didn't sound right when I said it. But as far as an old fine where, it was up to like $5 and then people started, of it being late or something like that. And then you accumulated your 10 cents a day until you got to $5. And then it became, but it was always because you didn't return it on time. It wasn't because something was missing or damaged or something. That seems to me that the patrons should take responsibility. But the time limit part is, I thought, basically what we were experimenting with to see if maybe we can't change the way people think about it, that they do want to return things on time, and it is a sharing of the materials. So we're assuming they'll take responsibility for that.
So I think what I'm hearing is that if it's a fine, we forgive it right now until December. That's what we decided. But if it's a fee related to lost, damaged materials, and Mike, I totally hear what you're saying about the time limit. I wonder if we institute the appeals process with the understanding that if Yvette's like, I'm getting appeals from people and they're from, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, this is a waste of time, that we are open to saying, okay, you can after X amount of years, but I think to just set up an arbitrary day and say after 10 years we forgive it, or after 5 years, I don't know that I feel comfortable doing that just yet. I think this would be give the staff on the circulation desk or in adult services an opportunity to not have to make a decision, to head off any, and to leave the conversation open that this was a damaged material. Our policy is if you fill this out, the director will take a look at it and then, takes it out of that moment. And hopefully Yvette will have lots of opportunities to reach out to people. But if somebody didn't return a gaming system, they don't get that forgiven. That's a lot of money. So I don't know. I just think this at least gives you an opportunity to look at it case by case rather than making a blanket consideration. That's just my thoughts on it. But fines, I totally see your point, Janet. Forgiven. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't know. Any thoughts? And I'm totally willing to look at it. Like I said, if you get a lot of these and you're like, these were all old, why are we dealing with this? Then you can just say, hey, let's set that date. But
yeah, I'm wondering how much this is connected to, when you have a library card, you open your library card, we set a date of 3 years out. So your membership is valid for 3 years. And that's really, mine actually was expired when I went to check something out today. I had to go to the staff and they had to confirm that I was still a resident, and here's all my contact information. Is it correct? Do I want to add anyone in my family to be able to pick up stuff for me? And they just review it. It's like, that's 3 years is reasonable because someone might change their phone number or move. But I think, so we have that in place to make sure accounts are updated. And then we also purge the database of old cards that are expired that no one ever has renewed, and it's been a while.
So let me ask you if I have, so some of those people that might take care of that, their cards are just gone. So how often do you do that? Every 5 years, 10 years?
We look at everything every year because every card has a different date, so they're kind of staggered. But the number of active accounts we have is factored into our dues for GMILKs because it's how many patrons, how many items. So I think, we've had discussions over the years since I've been the director, at least, how long do we hold on to an account that has fines on it? How long do we hold on to an account that has outstanding fines? And do we, engage a collection agency and then try and go after this old money? And so that's kind of that this situation is part of that bigger situation. What do we do? So sometimes the older cards were kept on, it could be that someone hasn't been to the library in a long time and now they're back. I don't think we want to have a hindrance to borrowing if they kind of come back and say, oh, that's a fine, that's really old. And then I think for us, we're not accruing fines during this pilot. It's okay, but how about waiving old fines?
But again, let's differentiate fines from damaged material, because I really feel like those are two really different things.
Yeah.
That the fine is, we're forgiving that. We return things late, things happen. But a damaged material, that's part of the policy and contract of being a borrower of the libraries, that you're going to return materials. If you lose, like if you lost 3 books or you just failed to return them, like I don't feel comfortable being like, oh, we're just going to forgive it. That's something completely different than the 10-cent fine that accrued each day in my mind. Because that's also something that when we borrow, we're agreeing we're going to bring it back. Mm-hmm. So that's part of the whole way that it works. So I don't know.
I remember in one of our board meetings several years ago, because it was a different head of circulation, you had purged some of the old files or some of the old cards, but there were fines attached, and Yvette brought to us that to get rid of these cards that were several years old with no activity, we voted to expunge.
Yep. I think it was $500.
It was
collectively.
Right. It was something.
I remember that.
And
yeah. So that might take care of Mike's concern about that when that kind of situation comes up, there's the opportunity for the board to say, we're getting rid of these cards. So these are people that haven't been in the library, that haven't used the library. So that's not hanging over their head from 5-10 years ago. It's kind of gone. But I would be in favor of trying this form out, seeing how it works, and with understanding, just like with everything, that we have the opportunity to change it, to stop using it. If you notice a pattern, that there's a better way to do it. No, really, that's. Mike, did you want to say something?
Yeah. Do you know how much in total the fines are for the lost or damaged?
Well, I mean, Janet could check the account to see what's current, but off the top of my head, no.
Do you mean like the overall amount of money owed to the library that are from lost and damaged, or the amount that's been paid? Oh, is it possible to track that and see what's, I guess you probably could search and see what items are considered lost and then put a dollar amount to that. But
we can search anything in the catalog on our side, but in terms of maybe what was paid to us,
I can search that.
What we've recouped.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to, in the meantime, I think that would be good information to have that might inform further discussions. I don't like the idea of there being like a situation that's just out there and still we're not sure how to handle it. You know what I mean? Like when you're saying this, I'm thinking, oh, this is a bigger conversation if we're looking at the financial situation of how do we handle all of these things. And it seems like it keeps coming up from what you've said. So maybe it's something we look at, and it may even be part of the strategic planning process. Like, what is our approach to this sort of a thing? So, but in the meantime, I would like to make a motion that we adopt the appeal of library charges form and ask that Yvette report back to us how it's going, if she notices any patterns or there's anything that needed to be changed.
I second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay, 500. Yeah, so just keep us posted. Let us know if this works. And I think it does alleviate some of the pressure on the circulation staff in the moment to have to make decisions like that. So,
yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Just to answer Mike, we've taken in, and this only goes back to 2017, $1,256.
And that's for people who paid?
That's for any item that the library has deemed lost, stolen, damaged, that the patron has to pay.
Okay, so they didn't pay it yet.
No, this is what has been paid.
Oh, okay.
So
it's probably a huge amount.
But the staff are really good about giving some leeway. Like, oh, I have the book. I'm just like, I moved and I know I have it. Just give me an extra month. And they're very good about that. So it might actually be kind of difficult unless it's a very old item. But current items, I find the staff being very good about accommodating me if I can't find it right away. So
it's about $300 a year. We're getting back.
Yeah, 5. Yeah.
I just want to say, when I was in the other day, someone was asking to renew a book, and the CERC staff member said, "Oh, that's going to auto renew for you in a day, and there's no one waiting, so you should be fine." And the person was very happy about that, so that was great. Okay. Any other information that you want, Mike, at any time? I'm just saying in general, like, Yvette, Janet, just they can pull anything up on that computer system. We can find anything. So
yeah, they've got data that won't quit. Just ask them for it, and it's like, okay. And
lots of good information.
They will sort it. And
Okay, great. So we have the review of the fiscal year 2021 general ledger. Any questions about the ledger for Yvette?
I have the invoice manifest that goes with that. So I want to take one and pass it.
Sure.
There's one for June, one for July.
These were sent out in the email too, so you might have had a chance to look at those.
Yep.
I actually do have a question. There's one. The money that was encumbered from 2021, like our outside, our other outside services, that was SMP information. I didn't see that. Nor did I find the carpet that was under.
Oh, okay.
And it might just be because it's July and it hasn't shuffled in yet. I don't know.
Yeah, we were looking for certain Ingram POs. Joanne was looking for certain Ingram POs, but didn't mention those other two. So we'll find out. I'll add that to the question.
Let's see. Here's my notes. The information. Yeah, carpet and SMP.
Okay. Anything else on the general ledger? Mike, go ahead.
What does the town charges for sewer and water? I think that's kind of funny.
Oh, well, we are a customer of the, it's the village district, which is not the town. So that's a different situation too, right? So. Yeah. Well, yeah, we have to pay for our services that we get.
Same as our house.
Yep. And Merrimack Village District is not associated, the town. They're two separate entities too. But yes, yeah, we got to pay for it. So. Okay. Let's see. What else? Okay, I guess that's that for that. The annual statistics we have.
Okay.
Eva, is there anything you'd like to highlight for us about statistics?
Well, we talked about it a little bit in department heads today. So we haven't, myself and the department heads haven't had a lot of time to kind of analyze these. We wanted to get it to you in a timely manner. But I think when looking at statistics, you have to look at them in context, or they don't mean anything because they're just numbers. So I have statistics for previous years, which might be a little easier to put them in a context so we can see a pattern. I think the other thing that we've talked about, when you look at the digital statistics or the digital collections, e-audio, 2, 3. Okay, so I'm sending around, this is 2021, that's 1819, and this is going to be 1820. when you look at the e-audio under digital circ, and I'm looking at fiscal year 2021, this is a combination of audiobooks and music. So it's not clear that we actually circulate more audiobooks than digital music by quite a lot. So what we'd be interested in, I would think, is if that's where the circulation is, we'd want to put perhaps more money into this and less into something else, or find a service that separates music and ebooks. We want to track what are our patrons using. So some of these, how they're currently grouped, don't really show us that. It's not misleading. It just doesn't break it out the way that might be really helpful and probably more interesting. So that's something that, we were talking about a little bit today, where I always want to see more statistics and more detail than probably a non-librarian, but Max he said he's able to maybe move us away from an Excel spreadsheet, which is just, we fill in the numbers, we run a report in the catalog, we fill in the numbers. He's tracking parts of his collection, which is nonfiction, and the areas, the subcategories in nonfiction, a different way with a different platform. And it's able to give him a lot of detail. So I asked him if we can just try that. So we're going to be trying different things in terms of how we can report statistics to you. There are certain things, certain statistics that we have to collect, and we submit it to the state library for their annual report. And I think we want to see what kind of programs are our patrons attending. And we can get a little bit more granular. I think with how we report statistics, the board changes a little bit. So it's like, how granular do you want to know? We can go way down. We can go way down, and you could find out how many in this Dewey number is circulating, a month if you want. But it's kind of, what's useful to the board, especially in terms of our budget. It's good information to think about in terms of space. How are things moving, in the teen room, in the children's room, that kind of thing. We're always looking at how different kinds of different formats kind of come and go in and out of use. There's lots of ways we can look at this. How do you want to look at it?
Mike, go ahead.
Oh no, I wasn't.
Oh, I think, okay. So one thing I'd like is, I'm finding it, I'd love to see Overdrive, Cloud, and Hoopla like you had on the fiscal year 18-19, but I don't see it on this one in front of us.
Some of the digital information we don't have yet.
Yeah, okay, because I think that kind of thing is really useful, because that's a subscription service. We pay additional fees for that. I mean, love Hoopla, right? I think you all know my feelings on the Cloud Library, but I still, if we want to see what the usage is, right? So that kind of thing, when it's available, I think would be really helpful for me. That's jumping out as something I'd like to see.
For the same systems, I'd also like to see unique users.
Okay.
Anything else? Any comments or questions for Yvette about statistics?
The part that you highlighted in terms of the e-audio, that's a stat that you get from whatever platform it's on. Right. It's like they don't separate it. So you can't separate it.
I'd have to ask Max, because he's dealing with the digital collections.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Great. anything more for that?
Well, I mean, we're still coming out of COVID. So coming out, going in. Yeah, so that's why I wanted to kind of put these in context in terms of, how do we assess our activity now? Is it a true snapshot of library activity? It is, but it's also not what we hope to go back to and where we've been. That's a little bit of the challenge right now. Is I don't want to write something off, or I don't want to cut a certain service because we're not using it. Let's just it's a weird year.
Yep, absolutely.
So
that was an understatement, but yes.
We're gonna keep improving how we collect and have discussions. We'll be having discussions in department heads about the kind of things the staff feel in addition to the state report we find useful. And then I'll communicate that to you and bring you more information as we get it. So
great. Okay. Thank you. So let's see, July 2021 general ledger invoice management. We did look at that. Open POs. Are there any thoughts on the open POs or questions for Yvette? It was nice to see that the water fountain with combo fountain and bottle filler is complete and that PO is going to be closed. I noticed the teardrop sign and for the returns. And I have to say, I did have a moment of pride when I came down Babuzik Lake Road and was making a right. And I glanced over at the corner of the library and saw that sign there, which I know was done a while ago, but I was like, oh, that does look really good, the granite sign. So very just struck me as we were going by there. So, and the desk looks amazing, the reference desk. So it's nice to see so many things. Were there any questions about open POs for Yvette? Okay. All right. Trustees budget.
Yep. So I sent all of you the draft of the 2021, 22, I labeled it wrong, budget. And I broke down fines and special income, and then I broke down what the fines and expenses and special expenses. One thing I want to highlight is that under the special income sources, I have a star and a caret because there was money that was essentially carried over from previous years or just last year, depending on when it came in. We have Quimby Trust money. There's Watson Trust money. It just came in right at the end of last fiscal year, whether it was end of May, beginning of June, that's to be spent in this current fiscal year. We got the Arpa grant, and then there's carryover of DCU. So all of that money together ends up being that $14,500. And then there's also Friends general donation of the $431 is also a carryover for this year. That's just not restricted. That's why it's a different color. So it's an income source, but it's not. It's like there to be spent, but it's not an income source. That's why it's in that line. So same with in the fines, we had 5,000, and it came over from savings, but that's to pay some of our fine bills that are anticipated. So, but it's not income because it came from savings. Any questions? Any concerns? Do you think it looks right. I mean, do we want to take something down? Do we want to take something up?
I mean, I think this is a framework, right? We know this is flexible and that things do change, but it's just to give us an idea of how much income the board will have and where we will be making expenditures. For instance, you have down $12,000 estimated, projected in passports, but that also, it costs us $2,400 to get those passports done. So that could change, things can change, but it gives us a good framework for what we can expect.
And under the budget, I put notes just so, like, under materials for fines expenses, we have that in our budget that we said we were going to pay for it. So that's why I have the obligated expenses from the town budget. I also put extra money in there because of replacements, which you never know what that ends up being, but I put like $200 there. So this was, and the notes are really just to show you where, if it's a specific line, you could say, that typically pays for that, like passport expenses comes from passports. And like materials under special is going to be the Arpa grant and Trustees of the Trust Fund money. So.
Do you need us to approve this budget, Janet?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I did want to highlight to Yvette that there's still that Nashua Education Association that came in.
I recall that. Yes, that was when they disbanded.
Yep.
And they wanted to gift the library.
Exactly. So if it has been spent, it hasn't been tagged, but I don't think it has been. So, and then the health trust is there. It's a carryover, but it's for staff, which I recognized, but it's still money that's carried over. So
great. Thank you so much, Janet.
No problem.
Does anybody have any other questions for Janet?
I move that we accept the trustee funds budget for 21-22 as written with adjustments as needed. Yeah.
I will second that. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor? 500. Thank you, Janet, for your hard work on this.
No problem.
Okay. Director's report.
The first item under personnel has been withdrawn, and we can discuss it now.
Okay.
Sorry. First item under personnel has been withdrawn, and we can discuss that in non-public.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. I do have two of our staff, Alex Jobin, who is in circulation, and Claire Sullivan, who is in youth services, have returned to school or are returning to school. But we'd like to keep them on the staff list so they could work as substitutes when they're back in town for school breaks. It's always really helpful because our regular staff tend to take breaks when it aligns with school breaks. So I have PARs for them for you to sign, Deb, to change their status.
Okay. So I will make a motion that we keep Alex Jobin and Claire Sullivan on as substitutes.
I'll second.
Any questions or discussion about that? Okay, all in favor? 500. Thank you.
I don't know if you had any questions about the report, but I'm just going to highlight some things that I thought you should know about and should be brought into the public forum. So the Arpa 2 grant is, the period hasn't opened yet. It's August 27th and it's due October 1st. This is a competitive grant with priorities given to libraries that are partnering with another organization, other libraries, other town departments, the schools, so on. The minimum requested has to be $10,000. So, our guidelines are not, what can we spend $10,000 on? We don't think of it that way. It's identify a problem and how can we solve this problem using a certain amount of funds. So some of the things that we've identified in department heads are home delivery services. We still are not really able to serve our community in that way. We had a short-lived home delivery program with St. Joseph Services with Meals on Wheels, but that ended after a trial run. But we were finding, especially with everything that happened in COVID, that would be a great service to offer people is some kind of delivering library materials to their house. So what we've talked about is books by mail. I would still want some kind of vehicle because I'm always going to remember my bookmobile days and how really wonderful that was. A couple of libraries in the first Arpa round actually purchased a book bike that looks like like an old-fashioned delivery bicycle with a big box in the front of the bike.
If you get a book Vespa, I will volunteer too.
Vespa. These are all really good ideas.
But I think that's a great thought about home delivery, though. In all seriousness, people could really use that. There are definitely people who are in need of that service.
Yeah, and we've done some preliminary work on it with our other home delivery program, so we already have kind of a policy written with some ideas of expanding that for someone who's not just working in the Meals on Wheels program, but for a different kind of situation where you are temporarily unable to leave your home. So this is kind of where we're thinking, and we're still in the thinking. And researching part of it. But if you had any ideas that you'd like us to pursue, happy to do it.
It's nice to hear that you're talking with the town manager, town finance director, and Nancy Rose at the school district. It said that you're communicating with them in your report, so that's good to know.
Yeah. Well.
And town welfare department. So.
Yeah, we're starting. Yeah. Starting to talk to people. So. And I also put here's the guidelines of the grant in it. All funds have to be spent by next September. So, for example, some libraries are saying, well, we're going to hire someone for January through September to do X project, but then that ends. So that's one of the challenges, that you want to pick something that's either a one-time purchase or something that can be completed in a certain amount of months, or something that we're able to sustain with other funding. And that's where we're kind of wondering.
Okay. Great.
Okay. So the next thing I'd want to mention is the COVID reopening plan. Understanding that we can always pivot back. I feel like I need to say that. We can always pivot back. That's still always an option, but at the same time, we want to keep moving forward and trying to open and offer more services. So I polled the staff about the restrooms, and right now there's a staff restroom and there's a public restroom, but these are both gender neutral. And we'd like to keep them gender neutral, just so that it's a little more accessible and inclusive, and people are used to it now. And then single use. So they can be unlocked when not in use, locked while someone is using it. And we've replaced the handles already, actually. And there's a lock that says vacant or occupied. So that was easy. We found it was hard to work the doorknobs anyway, and this was a longer project to replace all of the doorknobs in the library to be more ergonomically appropriate. And so this was, oh, well, we can kind of kill two birds with one stone here. So this is kind of like the work happened a lot faster, and the materials came in faster than me telling you. But to kind of officially change it to both restrooms available right now, the locks are different and the signage is the same, but we're ready to.
So there will no longer be a dedicated staff bathroom. They will just both be open, gender neutral bathrooms for single use.
Yes. And if we have to pivot back to staff and public bathrooms, that's a different conversation because the public, it's how far do we have to step back?
And I really like this idea for a number of reasons, obviously. And one that instantly comes to mind is like family bathrooms, right? You just think of people with their kids. It's just so much easier to go in, lock the door. It's just, that's just an excellent, yes. So,
yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Okay. The other thing that we are ready to move forward on is the Lowell room is now open for people to use. We've been doing passport appointments in there on a table, but we've also noticed a couple of groups coming back using it, or individuals coming back and just using it. So it seems the next step would be to open the Lowell room to be available to book actual meetings instead of just a group meets and plays cards. They don't reserve the room, they just show up. And we don't have a lot of control over, well, you're going to sit in the room and read while they're playing cards because it's open, you know. So we're also ready to open the Clump Room. The Clump Room, you know, we've had to pull the staff again to say, okay, are you ready to have lunch next to someone? And they're able to work that out. But we think, depending on how things trend, we'd like to be ready to open it for programs and groups. Saying that, you know, the Friends changed their meeting and they prefer to be virtual this month. We were going to have it in my office and then they said no. So we don't know what the public response is going to be. Once we open meeting rooms, people may still want to meet virtually, but we have a meeting owl now that the library will run for our meetings, you know, and we're still in a little bit of a unknown area. Programming for children is going to be virtual until maybe October. And Kathy would like to do things outside for as long as possible. And not have inside programming yet. We want to see how things go. We understand that children of a certain age are not able to have the option to be vaccinated, so we're trying to be sensitive to that. But she has a scenario she's worked out for children's programs, which usually story times run in a series, and it would be a shorter series with registrations, smaller groups, so that we could continue to social distance and take a lot of precautions, you know. So children's programming is going to look different than adult programming. You know, it's going to look different than meetings, but we want to at least try to step forward. That's what we've got.
Okay. Mike, please.
So before the pandemic, what days were most popular with groups to reserve the room, the Lowell room?
It's different every day. You know, some groups like to meet in the morning. So, I mean, it's really different every day. If you say I have an open room, it's going to get filled up with bookings.
I mean, like, what day of the week is more likely to be filled?
I would not have that statistic on the top of my head. I can look.
Because that's a really nice area just to sit down.
It is.
For an individual. I wouldn't want to kind of make it too much reserve only. You know what I mean?
I'm your librarian. I probably can't agree with you. It's a meeting room, you know. It's available for groups of 20 or less. So that's how we think about it. And library programs, then library sponsored meetings, and then public meetings. That's how it's ranked in the policy. So it's a beautiful room, I agree, but there's also a lovely option to sit by the windows on the other end of the building on the north end. You know, I think I wouldn't want to play favorites with any part of my building. But you know, we've had patrons who want to sit there and they feel it's their personal living room, and that's lovely, but it's also not their personal living room. You know, so we've also had the teen area, which is also very beautiful because it's the old building. You know, we've had the teen area, Henderson, Lowell, reserved during exams at the high school, just so we could make it a place for high school students or students during exams to study. You know, so when we make it reserved for them, we will get complaints from people who say, well, that's my chair. I want to read there. Well, it's not your chair. It's the town's chair. You know, it's everyone's chair. And right now, it is a flexible space and we all have to share it. So I know there are some libraries, you know, we all kind of have limited space. Some libraries will reserve areas of their library as quiet reading, you know, but that's also hard because when is your quiet reading time versus my quiet reading time? You know, it's really different. And sometimes if we reserve something as, okay, this is going to be a quiet reading room, it doesn't actually line up. It's not as easy as it might seem on paper, I guess is what I'm getting at. So.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. I noticed in Yvette's report, she mentioned that I would be meeting with her on August 13th. And we did meet and we went through all of the evaluations of the staff members, and we just, Yvette showed me them and we just talked, you know, like thinking about how things are going with people, that sort of thing. It was a great conversation. So I appreciated your time. So yeah, because I have to sign off on them. So rather than just sit there and sign them or read them all in detail, having a conversation about each of them was, I think, more useful and productive. So, okay. And Yvette was in the Business New Hampshire magazine. So that was nice. Thank you for sharing that.
It was a good article.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Thanks for reminding
Thank you.
Look good.
I don't know. Did you have any other questions in particular about the report?
The seismograph.
Yep.
That was interesting, but we worked so hard to get the old one, and just like technology now, basically what Dr. Kafka is saying is that it's out of date and should be replaced.
I don't know that we have to do that,
No,
but I was going to let you know about it.
you did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the other thing that is connected to my report is Max's proposal for Comics Plus.
Yes.
So I don't know if you've had a chance to look at that.
Mm-hmm.
I have a quick question. It's nothing.
Can you talk a little louder?
Oh. Something caught my eye in this report was, what is this self-registered patrons? There are 3. RFA printed out a list of self-registered patrons, and she had to contact them to come and get registered.
So if you get on our website under account, you can create an account online. So I am registering myself, but I can immediately start using digital services in the library. But it's limited to, I think, 30 days, and I have to come in real life, in person, and show that I'm a resident, and we can make this account, more permanent.
I think that was a great service during COVID, or if somebody wanted to see what the digital offerings were, they could set up an account from home and start using it and see. So that was great that was an option for people.
We were doing this before COVID.
Oh, I wasn't aware of it. I know that, yeah.
Yeah, because there was a discussion a couple of years ago when we were at a town council meeting, actually, and the question was, how do we, can we send out library card registrations with the tax bill? And I was like, no, we can't. But how can we make it easier for people to register to use the library?
Yeah.
And, you can register online for lots of services, and it's done. Yeah. So we were able to do that. It's a feature in our Polaris. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, so Comics Plus.
Yep.
Anyone's thoughts on this? I found his report very detailed, but I'm not 100% convinced. I don't know.
Okay.
That's yeah.
I got the feeling that what Max thinks is that if he can make patrons aware of this service, that it does a lot of the same things that Hoopla and maybe other services that we're paying money that is connected to usage. This might end up being less expensive, because what you do is you don't pay for individual usage, and it does not become more expensive if it starts getting used more and more frequently. It doesn't get more expensive. At least that's what I kind of got from it. And that possibly it would decrease the costs of Hoopla and any other connected usage charges that other digital platforms or whatever that we have available might be. And that, it's kind of a long-term look, but I got the feeling that that's what he feels, that it could end up costing less for the same services.
Right, because
in the future.
For Hoopla we pay
Yep.
per, like, I downloaded an audiobook, we pay for that one, where
Yep.
this one is a set fee for a subscription service. So if there were things, but then it would also be, people need to pick that platform to make that actually cost effective, right? They'd have to know to go there and check Hoopla. And frankly, I check Hoopla first because it's like easy and it's available. So yeah.
And that's that's basically what I got from, admittedly not reading it super closely.
I read it, followed it. I can understand his desire to fill the gap of comics. Where my concern lay, not so much that there isn't a gap, it's that Now, knowing that that our patrons want this, isn't there money that he could offset in the current budget to accommodate that?
Yeah, then he'd have to not buy something else.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Okay. Because I had asked him, have you earmarked already, you know, like Watson and Lawrence?
Right.
And it's like, yep. Okay, well, that's a conversation.
Yeah, I'd like to see he said a full listing of the current Comics Plus catalog has been reviewed by library staff. And I guess, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say I need to see it because I trust their judgment. I'm not sold. That's all I'm saying. I'm not 100% sold on it.
For me, it was, I guess I couldn't see how you couldn't find the $1,200, whether it was through an open PO or the extra money that we added to the adult fiction line or the Watson money. But I also, as a user, Cloud Library isn't user-friendly to me. So I don't know, but I don't read using Cloud Library. I listen. So I don't know how it works with a comic.
Mm-hmm.
I also can't use it on my Kindle, and I can't use it on my Mac.
Yeah, I've had issues with Cloud Library as I've stated too. So I wonder is there any way they could get like a trial? I mean, have they tried a trial to see?
I haven't tried the trial. So
do they have a trial in place? But is it only for staff or?
I can find out because in the past we've sent the trial to you guys to test out some things. So I'll find out.
Yeah, I think maybe I don't feel comfortable voting for this right now. So, but it'd be nice to maybe sit with it, maybe see a trial, maybe ask him to look and see is there any money there that you could find? You know, so
I also want to just see how it looks.
Yeah.
Like I said, because I've tried my other options, and other than my phone that's this big, that's what I read. I'm not a comic book fan, but I don't know if it comes up the same way as a book does.
Right. I know I am a comic book reader. And I tend to use my iPad on Hoopla Comics or web comics just because it's a bigger screen than my phone. And I really, I need to see it. Hoopla has a nice platform with their comics. So I mean, I would also want to probably see the demo.
I think we can revisit this, but maybe just put it to the side for now. But thank him for his detail.
Yes.
So,
and I mean, I actually did use his numbers and did some other analysis, and I do think there is a gap. So, and I'm not even a comic book fan, but given his numbers, I think there is. It's just, let's see how it looks.
And sometimes, we need to hear something, think about it, consider it, gather more information, and then decide. So
yeah, and he's also willing to come to a meeting to talk about it and answer questions that you have. So
okay, great.
All right.
Okay.
Can I just go back to the director's report about the COVID reopening plan? Are you okay with this? That we're kind of stepping forward?
I mean, we had already voted to change the hours to begin September 7th. And
yeah.
Right. But it's the other parts.
Yeah. I think if your staff is comfortable with this, given everything, and as you stated at the beginning, we can always step back. My son today just said that he's going there where he works, they're going back to full masks. That if your staff is currently good with it, then I'm good with it.
Yeah,
It's all you guys.
Yeah. No, my company went back they were going back, but then again they have started working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we're following along with the town and the way things are going, and if you need to shift or change, we shift and change.
Yeah.
That's
Okay. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's your environment. You guys need to be comfortable.
I know, but you're the board.
And I appreciate you telling us this.
And so I
And
think
we voted on that.
Right.
So we backed you up.
So I think that we did vote on the hours, but perhaps we should vote that, and just so it's documented that that the Lowell Room and Clump Room will be reopening after September 7th for reservations for in-person meetings. But I think that I'd like to have included in any sort of motion like that, subject to change at the director's discretion, because I think that might change before there's a trustee meeting. So, so I think I will make a motion that the Lowell Room and Clump Room reopen for after September 7th for reservations for in-person meetings, and subject to change at the director's discretion as situations evolve.
I second.
Thank you, Sohini. Is there any discussion or?
I understand what to.
Okay. All in favor? Yeah. And Eva, we trust you. You've handled the whole COVID closing and reopening with very methodically, with a lot of thought. And so I know it wouldn't be a decision that was made lightly, but I do feel very strongly that if we have meetings lined up and things shift and you need to change it, then you need to change it. And people have to understand that, and you have our backing on that. So that's okay.
And you're also really good about, if you do something like that, you notify Deb.
Yeah.
So
that I know of. No, I'm just okay.
Okay.
the carrier beam is in process.
Yeah. I just send emails every week. Hi. And I've put them on, with that little exclamation point, urgent. Hi. Just checking in.
Okay.
So I know it's hard because every vendor is busy, every contractor is busy, and this is a very small project that's probably out of the way. So we're just gonna keep after it.
Friendly reminders.
Friendly reminders.
Okay, great.
All right. I have a question though. What is this community rock snake?
It's totally adorable. There are 2 that I've seen. So this is a youth services program where we have the youth services department has set up rocks, unpainted rocks, under the canopy in the parking lot with materials to decorate them. And you decorate your rock, and then they will seal it and then add it to one of 2 snakes, which is just, a line of rocks that curl around.
Sure.
And it's just a neat community project that everyone's kind of jumping in on. So yeah.
Nice. Okay. Anything else on the director's report?
And you should come by and see the bricks if you haven't.
Yeah,
They're finished.
saw those. Great. Okay. Treasurer's report.
Okay. It's moving. All right. Let's move to the other page. So I'm looking at the balance sheet. This is as of July 31st. So our starting balance for fines was $5,079.96. We ended the month with $10,208.61. And then moving on to special, we started with $28,832.83. And we ended, with $32,236.72. Okay. I wanted to just highlight that, as I mentioned earlier this evening, there's a $500.11 was a deposit issue that got transferred back into fines from special. There's a $4,420 that brought our balance up to $10,000. You'll see the move out of fines, fines savings, that $4,420. And then pretty much the last line in special, you'll see the deposit of the $3,850. That's part of that's the Arpa. So, just want to highlight those.
Okay, great. Any questions for Janet?
Okay.
All right, anything else for us, Janet?
No.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I don't think so.
Okay. If something comes up, you can make us aware of it.
Oh, I just wanted to tell the board that Tom Bolin, who is the finance director, contacted me for information to help him out with the audit. So I CC Deb and Yvette when I interact with them. So he wanted some reconciliation reports and some profit and loss reports. So, and this just helps him get ahead with the audit for the library.
Mm-hmm.
So
great. Thank you. Okay, we don't have any minutes to accept this month. So moving on to committees, which are, let's see, the Building Explored. These are the general town ones. We'll go into the library trustee one. So think about what you might want to be involved in. So the Building Exploratory Committee has not met. The Friends will be meeting next week via Zoom. The Merrimack Public Library Development Fund Committee. Is there a date for that one? Nope. Okay. And the Town Center Committee, do you?
Yes, I actually have a report because we met last week.
Oh, great.
So I should have. Yeah, here it is. Most of the meeting was about Woodbury Street, the safety, the sidewalks. And Woodbury Street and McElwain Street down to the schools are closely related, but they're going to be paid for differently. The plan, which is still being developed, the school plan, is hopefully that there will be a sidewalk on McElwain, and the Woodbury Street sidewalks, especially when the high school is letting out at the end of the day, is dangerous. So the Department of Public Works is working very hard trying to get the state and the finances and everything else organized, and are hoping to get something started hopefully next month. But Woodbury Street, if you recall, has a really steep slope, and also there's drainage problems. There's all sorts of things that are being addressed. And so it's moving forward, but
Okay.
we'll see. So, and this committee meets monthly at noon on Friday, and I'll keep my membership going.
Okay.
Because I can do it, and most people can't.
Yeah, and I thank you, Karen.
And it's interesting. It's very interesting and you get to hear from people that you've only heard about. They're town legends, that have been involved with making Merrimack what it is. So it's fun.
Well, thank you. And to that point, if anybody else would like to do the Friends or attend with me. Two of us can attend the Friends meetings also. So that's always an option. The Library Board of Trustee committees. Okay, these are the ones that I kept thinking we had assigned people to, but we had not. So these were originally intended so that if an issue came up, 2 trustees would look at the issue rather than gathering the whole board together, and then they could report back. So there's a personnel committee. Karen had served on that with Janice, and they did a lot of work on Yvette's evaluation last year together and then brought it to us. Not the actual evaluation process, but the evaluation form we redid. There had been an ongoing issue with somebody that they had acted as a sounding board with Yvette and talked to her about some things. So the personnel committee has not done anything recently, but that was some of the stuff that they worked on. Building and maintenance, that was Janet and I think we maybe met once, and that was it. There wasn't a lot. Finance committee, I know, has met in the past to work on policies regarding finance. So there has not been a need for a committee to meet in the last few months, but that doesn't mean that there won't be a need. So it would be great if people would like to commit to being one of 2 members on any of these committees. So let's start with personnel. Is there anyone interested in? Okay, Mike and Sohini. Okay, there we go. Building maintenance. I don't mind doing building maintenance. I'd be happy to do that.
Do we need that one?
I was not on the board when you all established this.
So I was here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we didn't used to have these, but some of the other libraries and GMELCs have subcommittees. And probably at the time, we might have been having the roof replaced. There was a lot going on, and it was hard to gather 5 board members at the time. So it was, we could do this. So it's up to you if you want to continue it, if you find it useful or not.
Well, before, we also didn't have the maintenance list. So that was also something that got added. So, and there used to be like short-term, long-term, but the long-terms were really just CIP stuff. So that got taken off the list, and now it's just the maintenance list of what's going on, and it gets prioritized. So,
okay, so you don't think that there is a need for building maintenance? Okay.
No, I've been on it for several years, and other than that one time, once we got the maintenance list, I mean, and sometimes we look at it, sometimes we don't. But other than maybe adding something if we see it, or if something got taken off, it's more in the meeting.
So did you want to make a motion that we do away with the building maintenance committee?
I second.
Okay. I guess I just made a motion that we do away. I'm all in favor of fewer committees, so I'm not going to argue with that. So, okay. So Karen, I made a motion that we do away with the building maintenance committee, and Janet seconded it with gusto. Okay. Any discussion about the need for this? I trust your judgment. You've been on here if you feel like it has not been useful. So, okay. All in favor? All right. Well, then that leaves the finance committee. So,
Any takers?
No, I would actually like to learn more. I'll be on the finance committee. So,
I guess I have to be on the finance committee.
Okay. All right. Duly noted. Okay. So, here we are at August action items. I don't feel like there are a lot. I am meeting with, I will contact Ann Warner, and I will forward you all the organizational profile worksheet, and I will just keep you posted on that as we're moving forward. And I am meeting with the staff on the 24th, like we mentioned, and they are going to use the OWL. So if anybody wants to watch while you're having your coffee on August 24th at 8:30, right? You're going to be using the OWL. So would that be something people could watch if you were to share the link with the trustees?
I don't know if the trustees can all watch at the same time.
Oh, because it makes it a meeting, even if they're not, oh, is it interactive?
Yeah.
If one of you would like to watch. Okay. If one of you, I don't know about this technology. I don't know if it was just they're sitting back in the comfort of their own environments watching or not. Okay, So one of you. We'll keep it like that. Okay. All right. Is there anything else? Any other action items that I missed?
Just tell me, repeat again what the agenda, what you're going to discuss with the staff on the.
Talk to them about the building exploratory process, that the stuff that we've done with SMP, explain the different site selection stuff, information. Okay. Upcoming events. Friends of the Library meeting are August 30th.
No, it's actually the 23rd.
August 23rd at 7 p.m. Merrimack Public Library Development Fund Committee meeting to be announced. Fall book sale to be announced. And the trustees will meet again on September 21st at 7 p.m. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else for the board before we go into non-public? Yvette.
Can I go back up to the committee updates?
Yes.
So the Building Exploratory Committee used to be the LBDMC, the Library Building and Development. So that's kind of a placeholder, or it's been a placeholder for if and when you decide we go into a building project. So just to kind of clarify why that's sitting there. And
Well, and I'm actually thinking that that might be a group that we would want to gather together again so that we could discuss the site selection.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Are the Friends taking donations?
No. Okay. So the Friends are meeting on Monday, and on their agenda is to discuss when they're going to start taking donations, when they're going to have a book sale again, and how that would look.
Okay.
But no.
Okay. Good to know. Okay, great. I am going to make a motion that we go into non-public session at 8:55 per New Hampshire RSA 91A32A.
I second.
Thank you, Sohini. And we need to do a roll call vote. So I vote in favor. Karen?
Yes.
Sohini?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And Janet?
Yes.
Okay, we are in non-public.